Hi everyone, it's Rada from Sewing Through Fog, and today I have a really fun, project recap. It's not exactly a tutorial because somehow I doubt you have this exact same San Francisco Quilt Guild sweatshirt from 2023. But I'm going to talk you through how I wove denim into this sweatshirt and then embroidered it to make it something that I genuinely love and wear all the time. And you can learn a ton from this and apply it to an old sweatshirt that you have. Something that maybe you don't love the logo on, or it's just a little bit boring, or you just want to make it, more personal to you. So I got this sweatshirt back in 2023 at the San Francisco Quilt Guild show where I volunteered as no, this is a true story, as a security guard. Now, I love to weave denim into sweatshirts, and Zach Foster had asked me to teach a denim weaving class for his Quilty Nook. So I had prepped this sweatshirt during the class to show people how I'm about to show you, but I ended up taking out the denim weaving because I didn't love the denim I'd used that much. And so I just had this sweatshirt that needed something to happen to it. So the first step in prepping your sweatshirt is to use some type of fusible interfacing and iron it to the inside of the sweatshirt where you think the weave will go. You don't have to do this if you have a really thick sweatshirt. This one was fairly lightweight, so I wanted to add some more stability. Then you want to make your cuts. I like doing them at least an inch, maybe an inch and a half apart. Make at least 6 of them, and they should all be about the same length. And then you take your denim strips. I'm just kind of pulling the extra threads off on the edges here so they're a little bit cleaner. And you want the denim strips to be same, like an inch and a half wide. And then you just start weaving them. Weave the strips kind of in and out. And first I like to weave all of them before pinning them in place. Because you can measure, but you don't really know how many you're going to fit until you do them all. So again, you just weave in and out. I did use one little tiny strip in there, just, to give it some interest. And all the strips eventually get tucked in on each end. And if you have to go in with little scissors and make the cuts just a little bit bigger so that the strips fit, you can do that as well. So then I put a couple pins in it so everything will stay, and I take it over to my sewing machine. And I like to use a little zigzag stitch. And what I'll do is I will just zigzag up and down every single row and then all the way around the outside to make sure that all of the strips are going to stay in one place. And here you can see how there's now zigzags around kind of every denim square that's been created. And that's the whole weave process. I am going to add some more hand stitching to that area later, but first I'm going to move on to all the hand stitching I'm going to add to the rest of the sweatshirt. So why add embroidery, or why did I want to add embroidery to this sweatshirt? Well, I love the logo, I love the Golden Gate Bridge. I did not love the colors, it was just too bright for me. And I think that's a great way, if there is a logo you like, to change it by adding a different color on top of it. I could have also just completely stitched over the whole logo if I didn't like it. So I decided to use these two sashiko threads. I'm not going to be doing any sashiko on here, but I just really liked the weight and the colors of these threads. You really could use any embroidery thread for this project. And then honestly, I used whatever needle happened to be nearby that had an eye that was big enough for the sashiko thread. I tested a running stitch and it definitely was not thick enough. So I decided to do one of my absolute favorite stitches, which is a chain stitch. Super easy stitch to do, provides a lot of great texture and coverage. Now here is how you do a chain stitch, and there's a little diagram as well. You put your needle in and then out of your fabric, and then you wrap your thread around your needle and pull it through. And then what's important is the next stitch you do, you're going to go back down into that loop you made. Go in and out. And then again, you're going to take your thread and wrap it around your needle and pull your thread through, creating all these little loops. So I ended up using the chain stitch to go over everywhere in the graphic that was orange, the thin parts and the thick parts as well. And then I did end up using a simple running stitch on the cables on the bridge. And then the other stitch I did was a really easy back stitch. And a back stitch is so simple. Well, you stitch backwards and then you go farther than that stitch you just did and then go backwards again. It's a little hard to explain with words, but you can see what I'm doing. And a backstitch is good to use anywhere that you want to make a straight line and you don't want to have any space between your stitches. So the orange in the word quilt, those letters were too thick for me to cover with a chain stitch, and I wanted to add a little bit more denim. So I decided to do a reverse applique, which is where you put the patch under the fabric and then you cut out a shape in the fabric to reveal the patch underneath it. Now, since I wanted to use this mini rotary cutter to cut out some of the letters, I first had to put this small mat in between the two layers of the sweatshirt, so I would only cut through the top layer. And here I'm cutting through the eye. I used the rotary blade for each side, and then I just took a scissors and snipped off the top and the bottom. And then I'm taking a little scrap of dark denim and putting it underneath just to see what it looks like. So I followed the same process for all the letters, and for the middle of the Q, I actually used a little bit of fusible interfacing on that and ironed it down just to keep it in place until I had a chance to stitch it down. And I had just used a couple drops of glue to hold the applique underneath it, again, until I had a chance to stitch it. For the San Francisco letters and then the 2023, which if you notice actually turned into 2028, I used a navy sashigo thread and that same back stitch to fill it all in. I also ended up using that same navy thread and a back stitch to go around all of the reverse applique letters in quilt. You'll see I'm using my embroidery hoop here, and I used that kind of on and off throughout this whole process. It really kind of depended on what stitch I was doing, where I was working, and just how I felt about it at the moment. And then the last thing I did was add that same navy back stitch all around the denim weaving. It didn't need it, it would have stayed together perfectly fine, but I just wanted that added detail. And that was it. And I was ready to wear my sweatshirt. So I hope you're inspired by this and you take one of your old sweatshirts and do something fun to it so it's something that you love and wear all the time.